Hello everyone, this is Sarah, Marketing Manager from Vinchin. Welcome to today's webinar, Learn how to simplify data protection with Vinchin Backup and Recovery and Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. I'd like to introduce today's presenter and guest, Luwen Zhang, the Product Manager at Vinchin, and Simon Coter, the Product Manager at Oracle. Behind the screen, we have Terry and Joseph from Oracle team, and me and Xiao from the Vinchin team to answer your question during the time. Also, we have live Q&A at the end of the webinar. A recording of this webinar will be available. Please follow our social media and YouTube channel to get the link. Now, let's turn the time over to Luwen to begin today's session. Hi, Luwen.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Hello and welcome everyone. This is Luwen Zhang from Vinchin. And we also have Mr. Simon Coter from Oracle. Simon and I will be your presenters of this webinar. Hi, Simon. Thank you for presenting with me today.
Hi, Luwen. I'm pleased and also honored to be here with you today. And thanks to everyone for joining us for this webinar.
Okay, so Simon and I will talk about how to simplify data protection with Vinchin Backup and Recovery and Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. So here's today's agenda. First, I will give you a quick introduction of Vinchin Backup and Recovery and its key features. After this, Simon will give you a quick overview of Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. After that, I will continue with the backup strategies and the recovery strategies of Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. Then I will give you a quick demonstration of the backing up and the recovery of virtual machines on Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. And at the end, there will be a Q&A time. Okay, let's first take a quick overview of Vinchin Backup and Recovery. Vinchin Backup and Recovery is an innovative backup solution which supports up to 10 mainstream virtual platforms, including Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager, Red Hat Virtualization, Overt, VMware Whisper, Microsoft Hyper-V, OpenStack, Citrix Hypervisor, XCP-ng, Huawei Fusion Compute, and the Sanford HCI. Today, we will focus on how Vinchin Backup and Recovery works with Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. Here are some advantages of Vinchin Backup and Recovery. The high compatibility. As I've just mentioned that Vinchin Backup and Recovery supports up to 10 mainstream virtual platforms and also supports flexible storage options, including on-premise, offsite, and cloud storages. The automated protection. Flexible backup schedules can be set, and Vinchin will automatically protect your virtual platform without any manual interactions. And the notification emails can be optionally sent to report the daily backup and the storage statistics. And with Vinchin, you can perform instant virtual machine recovery to bring a virtual machine back online in a matter of minutes. And you can manage the backup infrastructure in a single unified web interface. And you can scale out the backup infrastructure easily without any extra license fees with your business future growth. And for our licensing policy, it's also very flexible. You can have a 60-day full feature evaluation before you're making any decisions. And we have enterprise, standard, and the essential licensing options. And also we have a permanent free edition available. And here's how Vinchin is being trusted by our customers. Now Vinchin has more than 10,000 customers from over 60 countries and has more than 1.6 million virtual machines protected worldwide. And our customers are from various industries, including education, telecommunications, medical and healthcare, manufacturing, scientific research, and more. Next, let's see some feature highlights of Vinchin Backup and Recovery. Here are some feature highlights of backing up virtual machines. Agentless backup, non-free backup, failure incremental backup, data deduplication and compression are all supported with Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. CBT, the change block tracking for Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager is under development now, but the SpeedKit can work as an alternative of CBT for high efficient incremental backups. And besides data deduplication and compression, the bit detector feature can further reduce the backup data by excluding the swap files, unpartitioned spaces, partition gaps, and the deleted file blocks from the backup jobs. And here are some feature highlights of the restoring of virtual machines. The restoration of virtual machines on Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager is also flexible. Users can restore a single group of virtual machines at a time, and the virtual machines can be restored to different Oracle Linux KVM hosts or clusters. And by using granular restore feature, users can restore the virtual machine from file level instead of restore a whole virtual machine. The granular restore feature is very useful when there's only files or application data that has been accidentally deleted. And for some service critical virtual machines, the instant restore feature can help bring up a virtual machine in a minute. And the instant restore feature can be also used to quickly verify the backup data availability. And except the backup data, virtual machines can also be restored from backup copy data and the archive data. This can guarantee your virtual machines are always recoverable from different storages or locations, even if any disasters occurs. And about the configurations and management, although Vinchin Backup and Recovery provides lots of innovative features, but the configuration and management are still user-friendly. You can simply manage your whole backup infrastructure using a unified web interface. And within a single web interface, the backup nodes, jobs, storages, and the virtual infrastructures can be all managed in this single pane of glass. And we also have an intuitive dashboard to monitor the backup infrastructure in real time. And for those customers who demand monitoring the overall status of the backup infrastructure from like a large screen display, we also have data visualization feature, which can display all the detailed flow and the statistics in a single graphic screen. Here are the storage media that we can use, can be used with Vinchin Backup and Recovery to store and keep your data safe. The local disks, partitions, logic volumes, fiber channel, SGAS, NFS, and CIFs can be all used as the local storage media. And the offsite storage and cloud object storage can be used for offsite DR. And that's all for the basic introduction of Vinchin Backup and Recovery. Before we continue with Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager solution scenarios, I'd like to invite Simon to give us a overview of Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. Hi, Simon. So now I will switch my desktop share to you.
Thank you so much, Luwen. So yeah, good morning, good afternoon, or evening to everyone, and thanks again for joining us today. My name is Simon Coter. I'm part of the product management team for Linux and virtualization at Oracle. Yeah, and today I'm really pleased to be here with Vinchin and with Luwen and share with you what we are doing in terms of virtualization solution or private cloud solution with Oracle Linux KVM and Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. First of all, yeah, this is our standard safe harbor statement, where at the end, what we are going to see here is really the outline of our general product direction, right? So it is intended to share the information, to share the plans that we have on our own solutions, but the same is not going to commit on any specific date or any specific feature that can or cannot happen around the product. So if I'm going to talk on the future, again, the important thing to know is that there's no real commitment on the same, but at the same time, what I'm going to share with you is much more oriented on what is today available with our solution. So let's immediately start to a very quick overview of Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. So as you can imagine, Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager is the management solution for Oracle Linux KVM hypervisor, right? It's a management solution. At Oracle, we started to work on this solution around 3 years ago. It's a solution built on an open source project named Overt. And today, this is our enterprise management solution for Oracle Linux KVM or for KVM hypervisor. And in fact, today, the options related to the hypervisor that can be managed by Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager, we have Oracle Linux KVM server that is based on Oracle Linux 7, and all the latest maintenance releases or the latest updates for Oracle Linux 7. That said, on top of Oracle Linux KVM server, we have a huge list of guest operating systems that can run virtualized. And between them, we obviously have Oracle Linux, we have Red Hat Enterprise Linux, CentOS, as well as other Linux distribution like the SUSE Linux Enterprise, as well as Ubuntu. So we also worked with other Linux vendors to get their solution supported to run on top of Oracle Linux KVM. And at the same time, we also have the option to run Microsoft Windows on top of Oracle Linux KVM. We have desktop releases that are supported like Windows 7, 8, and 10, as well as the server solutions coming from Microsoft. So the Windows Server 2008, 12, 16, and 19. The important thing related to Microsoft Windows is that we also have our own drivers or guest drivers dedicated to Microsoft Windows. Those drivers have been also certified by Microsoft. And this kind of configuration, this kind of collaboration we had with Microsoft introduced the option or the opportunity to run Microsoft Windows supported by Microsoft itself while running on top of Oracle Linux KVM. So Oracle Linux KVM with Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager is a solution that can run on premises. So where at the end you can really build your private cloud solution by leveraging Oracle Linux KVM. But the important thing to know is that the same solution can also run on top of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. So it's an opportunity that we are giving to our customers, because our customers have the opportunity to possibly extend their on-prem data center to Oracle Cloud. And they can run the same solution on premises as well as on the cloud. More things or more use cases can be associated to the possible adoption of Oracle Linux KVM while running on Oracle Cloud. We have customers today leveraging this kind of solution for disaster recovery purposes. We have customers running their production systems on Oracle Cloud with Oracle Linux KVM. And we have also customer extending, right? So the opportunity to possibly extend their on-prem data center and manage a KVM server that is running on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. It's a solution that is available today. We also have dedicated documentation on how to get this kind of configuration in place. And the cool point is that this one could be the first step to a possible hybrid cloud solution. So, or to a possible distributed cloud solution where some of your services can run on premises and some others can also run on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Another important topic related to Oracle Linux KVM and Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager is that we are also working, and we worked on templates or virtual machine ready to run on top of Oracle Linux KVM. So today we have templates dedicated to the pure operating system or guest operating system like Oracle Linux 7 Update 9 and Oracle Linux 8 Update 3. But at the same time, soon we should also announce and get them public available, the Oracle database templates. What is the concept of a template? A template is a ready-to-run VM or a ready-to-run vanilla VM that can be configured on the first boot, right? So you're not more required to install the operating system, or in the case of the Oracle database template, install the Oracle database software to then create the Oracle database, or patch the Oracle software, the Oracle database software to then create the Oracle database. When the Oracle database template will be public available, by leveraging the template, you will have the opportunity to automate the deployment of an Oracle database instance by leveraging this kind of ready-to-run virtual machine. The entire automation or the entire configuration during the first boot of your virtual machine is managed by Cloud Init. Cloud Init is the automation model, or maybe the standard automation model that today is leveraged by many or the most important cloud vendors. And between them, obviously, we also have Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. And the same solution is also available while leveraging Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager and Oracle Linux KVM. It's an automation that gives you the opportunity to configure different options on the first boot of your virtual machine, like, for example, the host name, the time zone, how to get authenticated to your system, the networking configuration. But the most important thing related to this automation is the custom script. Because at the end of the boot, at the end of the deployment of your virtual machine, you also have the opportunity to execute any custom script, any command that maybe is required for your own environment. And the custom script, the custom command can be even the deployment of your own application or the installation of a third-party application on top of the operating system. So the great point here is that you can really automate whatever you want. So it's not only the operating system. By the custom script, you can also decide to automate everything required or everything that has to be executed on top of the virtual machine. Now, obviously, Oracle, so KVM, the KVM hypervisor is part of the Linux kernel, right? And we all know that the KVM at the end is part of the open source ecosystem. It's part of the Linux kernel, and it's an hypervisor that is available on any kind of Linux distribution, right? And so here with Oracle Linux KVM, we think that we have value on our solution. If you compare Oracle Linux KVM with other KVM hypervisor or KVM hypervisor available on other Linux distribution, we think that a value is there. So the first one is related to the Oracle software certification, right? All the Oracle product lines are today working on Oracle Linux KVM. And the important thing to know is that the same Oracle Linux KVM that you can run on your own hardware on premises is the same Oracle Linux KVM that today is running on engineering systems like the Oracle Exadata, as well as the Oracle Cloud, right? So we are also the first customer of ourselves while talking about Oracle Linux and Oracle Linux KVM. The other point is related to the Oracle software licensing. There's a licensing policy named hard partitioning. It's a licensing policy dedicated to Oracle products that it's the opportunity to possibly license only the cores of used by a particular VM And this kind of licensing option is there only for Oracle Linux KVM and Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. Another point that at the end gives you value to Oracle Linux Virtualization is related to KSplice. KSplice is a solution available for Oracle Linux as well as Oracle Linux KVM. It's a component that gives you the opportunity to install security fixes for hypervisor, for the kernel, and even for some user space packages like, for example, OpenSSL, glibc, or even QEMU, without any kind of outage. What does it mean? It means that on your system, you can install security fixes without rebooting your system or without restarting your services. No impact, right? And I know that a single service could rely on more servers, right? Or on more VMs or more machines. But there's always an impact while applying or while rebooting a system. Because you do not know if the system, for example, is going to come back again with the same configuration, if everything is going to be good once you rebooted your system or once you restarted your service. By KSplice, you can really just install the security fix while your application continues to run. So even in terms of time and resources, installing security fixes will save a huge amount of time, we save a huge amount of money, we save time to people, and people can work on many other topics that maybe are also more interesting or could even help the business of the companies, of our customers. Again, the rapid application deployment. So we have templates and virtual appliances that allows to automate the deployment of services. Another option that we have with Oracle Linux KVM is related to the Oracle Enterprise Manager integration. Oracle Enterprise Manager is a monitoring and administration solution for all the Oracle products. So it's a single pane of glass management that gives you the opportunity to monitor and administer your entire architecture, starting from the virtualization layer, the operating system, as well as the Oracle database, or even the applications running on top of your Oracle database. So it's a single pane of glass management where at the end you can get the entire overview of your services, the entire overview of your deployed architecture. Virt2v2v support. Virt2v2v is another open source utility where we decided to work on time ago. This kind of utility is dedicated to the migration. So mostly when we started to announce Oracle Linux KVM and Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager, we had more customers looking for solution on how to automate the migration from Oracle VM as well as VMware vSphere to Oracle Linux KVM. So we decided to work on this kind of open source utility, and we today support this open source utility that can be leveraged to automate the migration from other hypervisor as well as physical systems to Oracle Linux KVM. That said, other things that are important to know is that with Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager, we maintain 100% compatibility with the open source project Overt. So while building Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager, we didn't fork from the open source project. We didn't fork from Overt. So this is why we are 100% compatible with Overt open source project. This is also why we had, for example, the opportunity to collaborate and work together with Vinchin to get their backup solution easily managing the backup and recovery on Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager with Oracle Linux KVM. Yeah, that said, when your architecture is in place and when your services are running on top of Oracle Linux KVM and managed by Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager, yeah, you are not done, right? At that point, one of the most important topics is really related to the backup and recovery strategies, right, for your services, for your VMs. And so this is why time ago we started to work and collaborate with Vinchin. Vinchin is an Oracle partner and is also part of our ISV, so independent software vendor catalog. we decided to work with them, and we are also glad to be here today to present and share with you this joint solution, because yeah, Vinchin is a very good solution that can help you to add this kind of important requirement once your private cloud solution at that point is ready to run or is already running production services. Yeah, that said, I would like to thank you again, Luwen, and all the people at Vinchin for the opportunity to be here with you today and to talk with you. And that said, I'm going to give back the word to Luwen. So thank you again, Luwen.
Okay, thank you, Simon. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, thank you, Simon. So thank you for the last presentation. Now we have a better understanding of Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager and its simplicity and the flexibility of deploying your own virtual infrastructure. So next, I will share some solution scenarios of backing up Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. Before we begin with solution scenarios, let's first check the working principles of how Vinchin Backup and Recovery backs up Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. Vinchin Backup and Recovery uses the REST API to connect to the self-hosted overt engine of the Oracle Linux KVM host. And by using the API, snapshot creation and the deletion for VM backup and the virtual machine creation for restore are all done through the REST API. And for the data transmission, a lightweight backup plugin will need to be installed on the Oracle Linux KVM host for virtual machine backup and restore data transmission. The backup plugin is required only when backup data goes through the LAN. If backup is done over the storage area network, also called LAN-free backup, then the backup plugin is not required. That's the basic working principle of Vinchin Backup and Recovery works with Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. So here are two examples of sample deployment scenarios for backing up smaller Oracle Linux virtualization environments through LAN. Vinchin Backup and Recovery can be either installed on a physical machine or can be installed as a virtual machine on an Oracle Linux KVM host. And the advantage of installing Vinchin on a physical machine is that backup and recovery jobs will not consume the system resources of the Oracle Linux KVM host. While the advantage of installing Vinchin as a virtual machine is that you can save the hardware cost. But it is recommended to install Vinchin on a physical machine for better performances of both the production and the backup facilities. And here's an example of a LAN-free backup and recovery. As we can see from the diagram, it uses separated networks for production and storage. Vinchin can use the existing production or management network to connect with Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager, the overt engine, and can use the existing storage area network to transfer the backup and restore data flow. And the data flow will be transferred through the storage area network, so high efficiency backup and recovery can be achieved, yet it will not impact on the production network. For LAN-free backup and recovery, if it's IP sign, for example, SGAS or NFS, Vinchin backup server requires at least 2 network interfaces. If it's FC sign, Vinchin backup server needs to be installed on a physical server with HBA interface card for being able to connect to the XC switch. And the distributed deployment, it can be applied with medium to large scale Oracle Linux virtualization environment. And it also ensures the scalability of the backup infrastructure for the future growth of your business and the virtual infrastructure. So multiple Vinchin backup nodes can be deployed with a single Vinchin backup server to speed up the backup process by decentralized workloads from backup server to the backup nodes. All the backup nodes will be managed within the unified web interface of Vinchin backup server. And adding the backup node will not require extra network space and also will not add the complexity of the management and maintenance of your backup infrastructure. On the offset copy feature, it can be used for disaster recovery. To achieve disaster recovery, you can install another Vinchin backup server on the remote site to store a copy of your backup data from the primary site to the remote site. Both sites can be connected through the internet or through a dedicated VPN connection. Once you have deployed Vinchin backup server on remote site for offset copy, in case any disaster took place and the primary site had been destroyed, you can have the options to restore virtual machines of the primary site to the remote site virtual infrastructure to bring your business back online. And after rebuild of the primary site, you can retrieve the copy data to the primary site and then restore the original virtual machines on the primary site. And the backup archive, this feature can be used to archive your backup data to more cost-effective storage for long-term preservation. The data which is no longer being used or is inactive but still has business values can be archived. This can make sure the data is accessible when needed. Archive can be performed upon full incremental or differential backups, but when archived to the archive storage, only full backups will be saved. So it is different than backup copy feature, as the backup copy will replicate a copy of the backup data to the copy storage. But in the archive storages, only full backups will be saved. So next showing in this diagram, the dependent incremental backup and differential backups will be merged as a new full backup and then being archived. This can prevent the possible data loss which might lead to the backup data unusable, as each of the full backups are independent. So any restore point can be used to restore a virtual machine. And by the way, currently we support AWS S3 and Alibaba Cloud Storage. Oracle Storage and the Azure Blob Storage will be supported soon. Next, the 3-2-1 backup rule. 3 stands for 3 copies of your data, 2 for 2 types of the storage media, 1 for 1 copy of your data offsite. With Vinchin backup and recovery, the 3-2-1 rule can be easily achieved. As long as you have created a backup job and a copy job, it will make sure you have 3 copies of your data. And also the data will be saved in 2 types of storage media. As Vinchin will not allow saving backup data and copy data in the same storage. It is also why that the 3-2-1 backup rule has 2 types of storage media principle. As for how to achieve 1 copy offsite, the offset copy feature and the archive feature will help. Okay, next I will show you some useful backup strategies with Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. The forever incremental backup strategy. It is used for it is fully supported with Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. For the forever incremental backup, a full backup will be performed only once at the very beginning, and the future backups will always be incremental and will always back up the new and the changed data blocks. This can significantly reduce the time it takes to backup and also reduces the usage of the storage space. And to prevent generating a non-backup chain, which could be risky, the number of the restore points is configurable by using the retention policy. When the retention policy is triggered, merge of the restore points will be performed. Like shown in the example above, if you like to keep 7 backup restore points, when the 8th restore point is generated, the first incremental restore point will be merged with the 4 restore points, and the timestamp of the full backup will step forward. And as a result, wherever incremental backup keeps running, but you always got 7 restore points in your backup storage. Of course, you can keep more restore points by customize the retention policy settings. Next, the multi-threaded transmission and the speed controller. They can be used in combination to balance the requirements of a high-efficient backup and a stable production environment. By default, multi-threaded data transfer is enabled for both backup and restore jobs. This can fully utilize your network and the I/O resources for backup and restore process. And to avoid multi-threaded transmission from impacting on your business critical services, speed controller can be scheduled to limit the network bandwidth and the I/O resource usage during the business hours. And during the non-business hours, the limit will be canceled. So with the multi-threading transmission and the speed controller combination, both your business critical services and the backups can run smoothly in different time durations. And by the way, multi-threading is only applicable to backups running through LAN. For non-free backup, multi-threaded data transfer will not required. SpeedKit, it is a Vinchin unique feature which can dramatically speed up the incremental backup process. It works as an alternative RCPT for incremental backups of your Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. It utilizes the external snapshot technology of Oracle Linux KVM hosts. While an internal snapshot has been taken, it will be kept in read-only state to record the current state of the virtual machine. All the new data will be saved into an external snapshot. So when the next time running incremental backup, by comparing the internal and the external snapshots, the increments can be easily located and backed up. The advantage of SpeedKit is it can increase the speed of the incremental backup for like tens of times, while the disadvantage is it requires a snapshot to be kept in the production storage. So if you have sufficient production storage, SpeedKit is a good choice for incremental backup. On the deduplication and compression, they can be used to reduce the backup data and save the backup storage space. The deduplication and compression process is mainly conducted by Vinchin Backup Server, and it will not consume the computing and memory resources of the production environment unless you have installed Vinchin as a virtual machine. The duplicated and the zeroed data blocks will all be excluded from the backup jobs. And compression is based on the high efficiency LZO algorithm, and the compression ratio can be more than 50%. Besides backing up the virtual machines, Vinchin Backup and Recovery can also back up the metadata of the overt engine. If engine backup is enabled, overt engine will be automatically backed up every day, and the database and the configuration files will be backed up in a single file. With the backup file, you can easily restore the overt engine to a working state when needed. Next, let's check some recovery strategies of the Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. With Vinchin Backup and Recovery, the restoration of the virtual machines can be performed on any full, differential, or incremental backups. Vinchin Backup Server will only copy the required data blocks from all kinds of backups to restore the virtual machine. So no matter it is a full backup or non-full backup, the process speed of the restoration is the same. And no extra time will be taken to merge the non-full backups before restoration. And also there's no need to transfer all the backup data to the production storage for restoration. And the granular restore, it is a useful feature to restore your virtual machine from file level. As in most cases, when a virtual machine needs to be restored is because of its files or application data had been accidentally deleted. But to restore those files or data by restoring a whole virtual machine is time-consuming and unnecessary. So under such a situation, granular restore feature will help. And when performing a granular restore job, it will run a lightweight KVM environment within Vinchin Backup Server and mount the backup data and presents the file system in Vinchin Backup Server web interface. Users can then browse and download the required files or data to restore to the virtual machine. And the granular restore feature also works with full incremental and differential backups. So you can restore files from any desired time point. The next feature, instant restore. It is another important feature which can be used in some emergency situations to bring your business critical service back online. Vinchin Backup Server uses the REST API of the Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager to create a virtual machine and then mount the backup data to the virtual machine by using NFS protocol. The newly created virtual machine will only load the required data to start up the operating system and its services. So the instant restore process could be completed in very short time. But at this time, the backup data is still inside the backup storage. So during the non-business hours, you can choose to migrate all the data back to the production storage to complete the whole restore process. As we know that Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager has built-in virtual machine migration feature, but for instant restore feature, the original backup is mounted in read-only mode, and there will be a cache created on the backup storage to write the new data. So it is recommended to use the live migration feature of Vinchin Backup Server. And as the migration will be performed in 3 steps to guarantees the consistency of the virtual machine states. On step 1, the original backup data will be migrated. On step 2, the cache data will be migrated. On step 3, the instant restored virtual machine will be powered off, and then the final cache data will be migrated. After these 3 steps of data migration, the consistency of the virtual machine can be guaranteed. And by the way, due to the backup data will not be modified during instant restore, so the instant restore feature can be also used to quickly verify the backup data availability. Okay, so here comes the demonstration time. Let me show you how to backup and restore virtual machines of the Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager from Vinchin Backup and Recovery. Okay, let's first log into Vinchin Backup and Recovery. Here we are looking at the home page. We can have an overview of the system information and the virtual infrastructure, backup storages, the current jobs, and the history jobs. And from the monitor center, we can have the information of the all the jobs and the logs and the reports. From the VM backup menu, we can manage all the jobs and the backup jobs and the restore jobs, including instant restore and the granular restore, and manage the backup data. And we also have the file backup feature for the physical machines. And from the backup copy section, that you can create a backup copy job to copy your backup data to copy storage on-site or off-site. And here's the backup archive feature that you can archive the backup data to on-site archive storage or to the cloud storages. And from the resources menu, you can manage the virtual infrastructure, the backup node, and the backup storages. And before we can we can create the backup jobs, we need to add the storages from here, and then add the virtual infrastructure from here. For example, I have added the Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager already, and then let's take a look at the settings. By simply using the IP address of the Avert engine and the user credentials here, and you can also optionally enable engine backup, and then click on the OK to add the Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager to Vinchin Backup and Recovery. After this, we can then create backup jobs to protect the virtual machines on Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. And then let's create a backup job. From here, you can select the desired virtual machines and then select the backup storage. And here you set the backup schedules, and the speed controller can be configured. The storage strategies, you can configure the deduplication and compression options, and you can configure the retention policy from here. And from the advanced strategies, that you can configure multi-threaded transmission and also the bit detector. And here you can configure the transmission strategy. You can enable encryption of the data transmission, and you can select to transfer the data through LAN or through LAN-free. Here you can also enable this disable speed kit. After this, you can take an overview of all the settings and submit to create this backup job. And as the backup will take a few minutes, So to save us some time, I will use some existing backup data to show you the granular restore feature. And let's select an incremental backup. And okay, now I have created a granular restore job. Let me start the job. Now it's preparing for granular restore. Actually, now it's running a KVM environment within Vinchin Backup server, and then we'll mount the selected backup to the KVM environment, and then the file system will be presented on the red side. This will take a little while. Okay, it's done. Now we can browse all the files from here as in its original file structure, and we can just download the desired files or data from here to restore to the virtual machine. And after you have downloaded the desired files or data, then you should stop the job, as this will keep running in the background and consume the system resources of the backup server. Next, I'm going to show you how the instant restore feature works. Let's also select an incremental backup. And here we select the target host. And it's verifying the availability of the host. Here you can configure the name of the virtual machine to be restored. And you can also choose to power on the VM after restoring. Okay. And then let's run this job. And let's check the running state of the job. Now it's creating the NFS storage. This will take just a little while. And after the NFS storage is created, next, Vinchin Backup server will try to use the REST API of the Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager to create an virtual machine on the Oracle Linux KVM host. Now it's creating a virtual machine. And then the NFS storage will be mounted to this virtual machine. Actually, let's first take a look at the Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager and take a look at the virtual machines first. Okay, it is actually being restored to the Oracle Linux KVM host, but now the backup data is actually inside the Vinchin Backup and the recovery backup storage. Now it's powering on the instant restored virtual machine. As we can see now, the job is running and the virtual machine is being powered on. Let's just give it some time to power on the virtual machine. Okay, it's being powered on. And after the instant okay, here we are entering into the command lines. So after the instant restore, the instant restore of the virtual machine, we can then choose to migrate the virtual machine to the production storage. Let's just click on migration and select the host. And we can also give it a name and power on the VM after migration. And to save us some time, let's choose some provision and okay. Okay, now it should be preparing for the migration. Here's the instant restored virtual machine, and here should be the migrated virtual machine. Now it's creating the virtual machine on the Oracle Linux KVM host. And now it's transferring the backup data to the production storage. And here is the progress bar that we can see the progress. Okay, transfer begins. And should be completed. We can also take a look at from the Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. And the migrated virtual machine had been created here. We can see here. And almost done. Okay, it's transferring the cache data to the production storage. This can guarantee the consistency of the virtual machine states. Okay, now it should trying to power off the instant restored virtual machine now. Let's take a look at from the Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager and see what's going on here. Okay, the instant restored virtual machine had been powered off, and now it should trying to power on the migrated virtual machine. Now it's powering up the migrated virtual machine. Okay, so due to the time, so I'm not waiting. We are not waiting for the machine to start completely. So after the migration, you can just stop the instant restore job from here, and the instant restored virtual machine will be deleted, and you can have all the data back to the production storage. Okay, that's all for the demonstration. And the next is our Q&A time. If you have any questions about Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager or Vinchin Backup and Recovery, Simon and I will give you the answers. So, hi, Sarah. Could you please point out the questions for Simon and me?
Hi, Luwen. Sure. Here are some questions for you guys. Let me say the Q&A board. We can see the first question. The question is, I have a customer use Oracle KVM now. They have two sites, one main site, one DR site. Can we use Vinchin to back up Oracle KVM from main site to DR site, and how? Thank you. So, Luwen, could you please answer it for us?
Okay. This question is actually related to the feature of the offset copy which I have just introduced. That you can install another Vinchin backup server on the remote site, and then you can you can copy your backup data to the remote site Vinchin backup server for DR, and the data on the remote site can be used to restore virtual machines on the remote site virtual infrastructure, or can be retrieved back to the primary site to restore the virtual machines. That's no problem. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Luwen. Let's say another question. Okay, let me say another question. The question is, I have a Oracle Zen cluster. What's the advantage of Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager comparing with Oracle Zen VM? How can I migrate to Oracle KVM from Oracle Zen? So Simon, could you please answer it for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So Oracle Linux KVM is for Oracle the go forward hypervisor solution. So it's where today we are investing resources and time, and it's where we are going to introduce new enhancement. Yeah, that said, Oracle VM is still a valid solution. It's still supported. The important thing to know is that Oracle VM is going to be end of premier support in March 2021. And at that time, the extended support period for Oracle VM will start. That said, even today, we already have more features, more options available on Oracle Linux KVM than Oracle VM Server. And that said, related to the possible migration, there's an article dedicated to the automated migration based on B2B utility. It's an article that is there on my blog. That is blogs.oracle.com/scoter. And over there, you can find the entire process on how to automate the migration from Oracle VM to Oracle Linux KVM and Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager.
Okay, thank you, Simon. Let me follow this question. The same person asked, can Vinchin back up Oracle Zen VM as well? So, Luwen, could you answer this?
Oh, it is not supported, but now Vinchin Backup and Recovery can fully support the KVM-based Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager.
Thank you. Here's another question. I'm currently use VMware. If I want migrate from VMware to Oracle, do you support? So Luwen, could you please answer it?
This is actually a new feature that will be supported by Vinchin on the next version, the next release. And after the next version, we will support migration of the virtual platforms from VMware to Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. So next version, okay, no problem.
Yeah, I also want to add a point here. Related to the pure migration of virtual machines from VMware to Oracle Linux KVM, yeah, even there we have a process to migrate the VMs, to automate the migration from VMware to Oracle Linux KVM. And yeah, it's a solution, again, public available, and it's a solution that many customers already leverage. So we are aware, and we are collaborating even today with customers that already completed their migration from VMware to Oracle Linux KVM, and others that are in the process of migrating their workload now. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Simon. Okay, yeah. We are at the end of our time. Thanks for all of the questions. For other questions that we didn't answer here, we will follow you by email, so don't worry about it. Thanks to Luwen and Simon for all of the information. Thank you all for taking time out and being here today to join us. A recording of this webinar will be available. Please follow our social media and YouTube channel to get the link. If you have other questions, please contact Vinchin team and Oracle team by using this Connect info. We hope you enjoyed today's webinar and see you next time. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.